February 2017 was supposed to be just another day in Delphi, Indiana, a quiet town where everyone knew each other. But in a shocking turn of events, two young girls, Abby Williams and Libby German, went missing during an afternoon walk on a local trail. What started as a terrifying search for missing children quickly escalated into a case that would grip the entire nation. People everywhere were horrified, not just by the disappearance itself, but by what would come next. Months later, the police arrested Richard Allen, a man who would be convicted of their murders. The public thought the case was finally closed, a tragic chapter that had been resolved. But just when everyone believed the truth had been revealed, shocking leaks began to emerge, evidence that wasn't supposed to be seen by the public, evidence that could challenge everything the world thought it knew about this case. Photos taken from the crime scene, private videos, and thousands of pages of court documents started making their way into public hands, stirring up controversy and raising questions that had never been asked before. How could this happen in such a high-profile case? Who had access to these materials, and why were they leaked? And most importantly, what does this new evidence really tell us about that day on the trail in Delphi? The leaks didn't just reveal details. They reopened wounds, casting doubt on the investigation and the conviction that so many had trusted. Suddenly, a case that seemed solved was filled with new questions, new theories, and a deeper mystery that no one was prepared for. As the town of Delphi and the nation watched, a tense question began to emerge. Could it be that the answers everyone thought were final were only part of the story? Could the truth be far more complicated than anyone expected? And with new evidence coming to light, what secrets are still hidden in the shadows of that infamous trail? Stay with us, because the answers are closer than you think, but they might be more disturbing than anyone could imagine. To understand the gravity of what was leaked, we need to revisit the day that shook Delphi to its core. On February 13, 2017, Abby Williams, 13, and Libby German, 14, set out for a walk on the Monon High Bridge Trail, a place familiar to both girls. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon, a chance to enjoy the quiet of the woods, but what happened next would change everything. The girls never returned home. Their absence triggered a massive search, with hundreds of volunteers, police, and even canine units combing the dense woods for any sign of them. The town, which had always felt safe, was suddenly gripped by fear, and the media attention that followed turned Delphi into the center of a national tragedy. Amid the search, a chilling discovery was made. The bodies of Abby and Libby were found near the trail, a short distance from where they were last seen. The horror of the discovery was compounded by the realization that someone had captured the girls' final moments on a device, leaving behind a record that would become central to the investigation. This evidence, a brief video and audio recording, would come to be known as the "Bridge Guy" clip. In it, a man's voice is heard calling to the girls, and the two respond, seemingly unaware of the danger ahead. From that point, the investigation intensified. Police meticulously collected evidence, interviewed dozens of people, and followed every lead they could find. Eventually, suspicion fell on Richard Allen, and after a lengthy investigation, he was arrested and later convicted. At first, it seemed like justice had been served. A tragic crime solved, a community finally able to start healing. But the reality was far more complex. The trail of evidence, once believed to be contained within court files and police reports, began to leak. Photos from the crime scene, private recordings, and documents that had never been seen before emerged, sparking questions no one had anticipated. What the public didn't know at the time was that these new revelations could rewrite the story of that fateful day. And so, the question that loomed over Delphi, and over the nation, was no longer just who did this, but what had been hidden. What pieces of the puzzle had been overlooked, ignored, or even deliberately kept from view? The answers, as we will soon see, are both shocking and unsettling, and they raise doubts about everything that was once considered settled. Just when it seemed the Delphi case had reached its conclusion, the story took an unexpected turn. In the years following Richard Allen's arrest and conviction, a series of shocking leaks began to surface, bringing the case back into the spotlight, and this time, the revelations were unlike anything the public had seen before. It started with photos. Private images from the crime scene, ones that were supposed to remain strictly in the hands of law enforcement and court officials, somehow found their way into the public domain. These weren't just ordinary photos. They showed details of the trail, the bridge, and areas where investigators had discovered critical evidence. To the average viewer, they might have seemed like simple images, but to anyone following the case closely, they were explosive. The source of these leaks added another layer of intrigue. The photos were traced back to a man who had connections to the legal team, a former colleague who admitted to taking the images without permission. From there, the photos spread online, reaching forums, YouTube channels, and even true crime communities. Some people saw them as a window into the investigation, others saw them as a violation of trust and ethics. The fallout was immediate. The attorneys representing Allen were forced to withdraw from the case, unable to continue knowing sensitive materials had been exposed to the public. But the photos were only the beginning. Thousands of pages of court documents, never intended for public consumption, also surfaced. Within these pages were references to theories, alternative suspects, and discussions that had been previously hidden. One of the most surprising aspects of these documents was the introduction of what some called the totemism, or cult theory, a suggestion that there may have been ritualistic elements to the crime. While this theory remains controversial, it opened up a whole new avenue of questions. Were there other people involved? Had investigators missed something critical because the focus was on Allen? And most importantly, what had been kept from the public to maintain the narrative of a closed case? Even more startling was the release of private video content. For years, only snippets of the "Bridge Guy" recording were available to the public. Then, without warning, the full clip surfaced, offering a clearer glimpse of the man who had approached Abby and Libby that day. His voice, his movements, and even subtle details about his actions became the subject of intense scrutiny. Fans, investigators, and amateur sleuths alike pored over every second, looking for clues, patterns, or inconsistencies that might point to a larger story than anyone had imagined. The impact of these leaks was immediate. Social media and forums exploded with speculation. People debated what the photos showed, questioned the integrity of the investigation, and began to reconsider the details of Allen's conviction. What had seemed straightforward was suddenly complex, layered with ambiguity and unanswered questions. And for the residents of Delphi, the resurgence of public attention reopened old wounds. The town was reminded, in vivid detail, of a tragedy they had tried to put behind them. Perhaps most unnerving of all was the realization that, despite the conviction, there were still pieces of the puzzle missing. The leaked evidence didn't just reveal what had happened, it hinted at what had been concealed. Who had access to these materials? Why were they leaked now? And could these revelations change the way the world saw the Delphi murders? The case that many had assumed was closed was no longer so simple. With each new photo, each new document, and each video clip, a sense of unease grew. The public began to ask difficult questions about the investigation, about justice, and about the possibility that the full truth had never been revealed. As we move forward, the story takes an even darker turn. The leaked evidence not only exposed what had happened on the day of the murders but also suggested there might be forces, theories, and individuals connected to the case that the world had never considered before. And now, we come to a theory that would shock many, the possibility of ritualistic elements and a hidden, almost secretive layer to the tragedy that changed the entire narrative of what happened on that trail. Hold on, before we continue, I need to tell you something important. Every single day, someone becomes a victim simply because they didn't know what signs to look for or what danger feels like before it strikes. And that's exactly why I created the ebooks in my store. These books will literally show you how to stay safe, how to avoid becoming a target, and how to understand the mindset of dangerous people before they strike. I'm not exaggerating. This is knowledge that can save your life or someone you care about. If you're watching this right now, that means you're already interested in crime stories, but real-life crime doesn't give second chances. Take 5 seconds and click the link in my channel bio, check out the store, and grab something that could protect you or your family. Don't wait until it's too late and wish you had learned these things earlier. The link is right there, go check it out now, and let's get back to the story. If you're enjoying the video, don't just watch and scroll, hit subscribe now. Every time someone skips subscribing, stories like these risk being forgotten. And while you're at it, comment where you're watching from. It only takes a second, but it shows you care about keeping these stories alive. Don't be the viewer who just watches, be the one who helps these stories matter. Subscribe. Comment. Make your presence count. As the leaked documents and photos began to circulate, a shocking new theory emerged, one that many had never considered and that sent chills through even the most seasoned investigators. Buried deep in thousands of pages of court exhibits were references to something unusual, something that suggested the Delphi murders might not have been entirely random. Some pages hinted at ritualistic symbols, carefully arranged sticks and branches near the trail, and other markings that appeared to have meaning beyond the ordinary. This is where the idea of Odinism, or Norse pagan beliefs, entered the conversation. The theory proposed that the crime might have been influenced by a small, secretive group practicing rituals associated with ancient traditions. According to the documents, investigators noticed patterns at the scene that could be interpreted as symbolic. While no concrete evidence directly tied anyone to a cult, the suggestion alone raised uncomfortable questions. Could there have been someone else involved, someone acting with a specific, deliberate purpose? Could the trail have been staged to send a message or mimic ancient rites? The court documents named a few individuals loosely associated with Odinism, raising the possibility that they could be linked to the area or even the crime itself. While these names were never officially charged, their mention in legal filings created a ripple of speculation. For the public, it was difficult to know what to believe. Was this theory credible, or was it an attempt by the defense to create doubt? Regardless, the mere existence of such a theory added another layer of mystery and tension, forcing everyone to reconsider the story they thought they knew. Adding to the intrigue, some of the leaked crime scene photos appeared to show arrangements on the ground, sticks leaning against one another, patterns in the leaves, that fueled the idea of ritualistic behavior. Whether intentional or coincidental, these images caused investigators, journalists, and armchair sleuths alike to pore over every detail, trying to connect dots that may or may not have been connected. The timing of these revelations was critical. Just as the world had accepted that the case was solved, these documents reopened the discussion, forcing people to ask new questions. If there were ritualistic elements involved, could Richard Allen have acted alone? Could there have been a wider network or influence at play? And perhaps most importantly, what else might have been overlooked during the initial investigation? The theory of Odinism didn't just add mystery, it injected doubt. It suggested that the crime scene, which had long been viewed as a straightforward site of tragedy, might hold hidden meanings, clues, or even warnings that had never been understood. For those following the case closely, it was both fascinating and terrifying. Fascinating because it opened new possibilities for investigation, and terrifying because it suggested there could be depths to this case that no one had anticipated. As unsettling as this theory was, it tied back directly to the leaked evidence. Photos, videos, and documents, all of which had resurfaced, suddenly took on new significance. Every stick, every shadow, every detail became a potential clue, and the public realized that what they thought was a closed case might be far more complicated than anyone imagined. And just when the tension seemed at its peak, another piece of evidence surfaced, the full Bridge Guy video. A recording that had been previously limited to the public now revealed more than ever before, offering additional context and potentially connecting to these symbolic patterns in ways that no one had yet considered. The story was evolving, and the Delphi murders were no longer just about a single suspect or a tragic day on the trail. There were layers, possibilities, and mysteries that demanded attention. The next question became impossible to ignore. Could these new revelations actually change what we thought we knew about the crime, or were they merely distractions from the real truth? While theories about ritualistic elements captured the public's imagination, the most tangible piece of evidence, the "Bridge Guy" video, continued to haunt the case. For years, only short clips of that recording were available to investigators and the public, showing a man on the bridge, speaking to Abby and Libby as they walked along the trail. Even in those few seconds, the girl's reactions, the man's movements, and the subtle details of the scene were enough to spark intense speculation. Then, the full video leaked. Unlike the brief snippets, this version gave a clearer view of the suspect's behavior, his voice, and his interaction with the girls. Every frame was analyzed by armchair detectives, journalists, and professionals alike. People replayed it countless times, dissecting his gestures, his pace, and even the tone of his voice. Questions emerged immediately. Was there something in his behavior that suggested premeditation? Could the way he approached the girls connect to the symbols and patterns that had been found on the trail? The timing of the leak was particularly critical because it coincided with the release of thousands of pages of court documents, some of which referenced alternative suspects and ritualistic theories. Suddenly, the bridge guy wasn't just a fleeting figure caught on video, he became a central piece of a larger puzzle. Some theorists speculated that he might not have been acting alone, or that his actions on the bridge were part of a more complex plan than previously believed. At the same time, forensic evidence added another layer to the mystery. DNA collected from the scene, which many had assumed would definitively tie Richard Allen to the crime, was surprisingly inconclusive. Experts testified that no DNA could directly link him to the murders. The evidence that did exist was limited, sometimes matching only unrelated materials, like hair from a family member of one of the girls. For investigators and the public alike, this raised serious questions. How could a man be convicted with such limited physical evidence? Could there have been mistakes in the way the DNA was collected or analyzed? The combination of the full video and the ambiguous DNA evidence reignited debates across the country. Some argued that the conviction was solid, relying on confessions, witness testimony, and circumstantial evidence. Others began to wonder if a key element of the truth had been overlooked. Did the video and DNA suggest the possibility of other individuals being involved? Could the ritualistic patterns, the leaked photos, and the full bridge guy recording be pointing to something bigger than a single perpetrator? Even more unnerving was the fact that these revelations were happening years after the conviction. For the families, the town, and anyone following the case, it created a sense of unease. If critical details were only coming to light now, how much of the original investigation had been missed, ignored, or misunderstood? And as investigators continued to review these materials, the public could only wait, wondering whether the final pieces of the puzzle would ever emerge. The bridge guy video, once a fleeting glimpse of terror, now stood at the center of the mystery, intertwined with leaked evidence, possible ritualistic signs, and inconclusive DNA results. Each new detail raised more questions than it answered, leaving viewers to wonder if justice had truly been served, or if the true story of what happened on that trail had yet to be fully revealed. With these layers of mystery unfolding, the final question looms larger than ever: what does all of this mean for Richard Allen's conviction, and could there still be secrets hidden in the shadows of Delphi that no one has uncovered? As the leaked evidence, the bridge guy video, and the Odinism theory circulated, the impact on Delphi and the wider public was immediate and profound. What had once been a seemingly resolved tragedy was suddenly reopening wounds, forcing everyone to reconsider what they thought they knew about that fateful day. The town of Delphi, already haunted by the memory of Abby and Libby's deaths, was thrust back into the spotlight, with residents and media alike dissecting every detail of the case. The public reaction was intense. Social media exploded with discussions, theories, and heated debates. Armchair investigators combed over the leaked photos and videos, connecting dots that had never been visible before. Forums lit up with speculation about the possible involvement of a cult, the significance of ritualistic markings, and whether the bridge guy might have been acting as part of a larger, hidden plan. Every detail became a potential clue, and every unanswered question fed the sense that the case was far more complex than it had appeared. At the same time, doubts began to surface regarding the original conviction. The inconclusive DNA evidence, combined with the new documents and videos, led many to question whether justice had truly been served. Could Richard Allen have acted alone? Were there elements of the investigation that were overlooked or misunderstood? And most unsettling of all, could there still be aspects of the case that had never been revealed to the public or even to investigators? These questions didn't just stir curiosity, they ignited controversy. Legal experts debated the ethics of the leaks and whether they could influence appeals or retrials. Families and supporters of the victims grappled with the renewed attention, torn between wanting justice and fearing that the reopening of the case would reopen old pain. Meanwhile, for those following the case from afar, the story became a cautionary tale about how fragile our understanding of truth can be when secrets, theories, and leaks collide. The implications extended beyond Delphi itself. The case became a symbol of how new evidence, whether intentionally leaked or accidentally revealed, can shift the narrative in unexpected ways. It reminded the public that even high-profile investigations are not immune to hidden layers, overlooked details, and questions that demand answers. Every photo, every page of court documents, and every second of video could hold significance, challenging assumptions and keeping the mystery alive. And so, as the world continues to watch, one question remains: how much do we really know about the Delphi murders? Was the conviction of Richard Allen the full truth, or just one piece of a far larger puzzle? With new evidence still emerging and public curiosity at an all-time high, the case refuses to settle quietly. The story of Delphi is not just a tragedy, it's a reminder that in even the most high-profile cases, the truth can be elusive, and the answers we seek may lie just beyond the reach of what we think we know. The trail, the videos, the leaked documents, and the unanswered questions all leave us with one chilling realization: the mystery of Delphi may be far from over, and the final truth may still be waiting to reveal itself in ways no one could have predicted. Hold on, before we continue, I need to tell you something important. Every single day, someone becomes a victim simply because they didn't know what signs to look for or what danger feels like before it strikes. And that's exactly why I created the ebooks in my store. These books will literally show you how to stay safe, how to avoid becoming a target, and how to understand the mindset of dangerous people before they strike. I'm not exaggerating. This is knowledge that can save your life or someone you care about. If you're watching this right now, that means you're already interested in crime stories, but real-life crime doesn't give second chances. Take 5 seconds and click the link in my channel bio, check out the store, and grab something that could protect you or your family. Don't wait until it's too late and wish you had learned these things earlier. The link is right there, go check it out now, and let's get back to the story. If you're enjoying the video, don't just watch and scroll, hit subscribe now. Every time someone skips subscribing, stories like these risk being forgotten. And while you're at it, comment where you're watching from. It only takes a second, but it shows you care about keeping these stories alive. Don't be the viewer who just watches, be the one who helps these stories matter. Subscribe. Comment. Make your presence count.